Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, it's that time again for us to get fired up, motivated, inspired, give some encouragement for someone we know that's hurting and struggling and going through stuff. We're all going to go through stuff. We all going to be there. We're going to have a great life, and all of a sudden life is going to turn around and kick us in the teeth. And what do we do about it? We persevere. We get strong. We learn from it. We help the other person to help them get through it and move on, and then continue having a great life as much as possible. Today, we're going to talk about demons. We all have our demons. Jokingly, I've told people that part of my demons is liking banana splits too much. All right, that's jokingly. You know, I do have serious demons like everyone else. Okay, I get those depressing thoughts. I have attempted suicide 15 years ago, and but hopefully those demons don't creep in like they had before. And again, anybody who gets serious with thinking suicide, please contact somebody on the suicide hotline. Find somebody. Again, you can lie to them. You don't have to give your real name, but be open and honest about what you're going through so they can try to help you. All right. Today, our guest, he said he's running from his demons as best as possible, and he wants to get out here and make a difference in people's life. And so let's go and get started with TJ West. Hey, buddy, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good. I don't know if you're in my ears or not, man.
Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
I
can hear you through the regular speakers. But I tell you what, you're going to start your story. I'm going to get you into my head. So you're going to get started because I can hear you as we're doing this.
Okay. So again, when you talk about demons, I should give you kind of like a little introduction of kind of things that led up to where I'm at today. So I'm legally blind from a condition called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is a high allergic reaction to medication. I went into the emergency room for an ear infection, and about a week later, I had no skin, my hair fell off, teeth fell out, just about everything internally just went to hell. I lost my gallbladder. There's a bunch of stuff that just I don't have anymore. So SJS is, like I said, a high allergic reaction medication. In my case, it was amoxicillin. And once they realized I was allergic to that and I was having reactions like blisters and things, they made me take vancomycin. And so I was allergic to that as well. At some point, like I said, all the skin and all that started falling off. Where I was living at the time, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, they do not have a burn center. People don't know what a burn center is. That's where people go who were basically lit on fire. However, it was their choice or someone else's or an accident. However, that's how they end up there. And I end up there because I had no skin. They put you, and I'll try to find an image for you in a little bit. But they wrap you up like a mummy. So they put bacitracin, which is Neosporin, but much stronger. And they put it all over your raw, just no skin body, which is pain that I can't explain to you. And then they wrap you up with all these bandages and they press it tight. And then they change that multiple times a day. Something says in my head every 6 hours. I don't know if that's accurate, maybe 6 to 8 hours. And so I was 4 years old at that time, and I spent about 4.5 months in a hospital. I was in there so long to the point where they had to teach me how to walk again because I had like the baby deer legs where I couldn't stand. So I medicine balls and exercise bikes, things like that. But it was a long process because, again, there was the burn center part of it, and then there was just recovery, and there's needles and surgeries because one of the things that comes with SJS is cornea damage. It affects your eyes as well, which is really the only thing that affects me to this day. There's some chronic pain here and there, but in general, it's mainly just the eyes. And my cat's putting his tail on it.
That's okay. But we like kitty cats on the show. We got I got a kitty cat and a dog myself.
There you go. But yeah, so I end up spending a good amount of time, but a lot of recovery. Even when I left the hospital, I was on feeding tubes. I wouldn't eat properly, so that's really the only reason why I was doing. I was getting pumped with all kind of medication, it was just a lot of recovery and damage. A couple of years of recovery and just surgeries where they took cells from a dead person's eye onto my bad eye, which I should explain. My left eye is all colors and motion, and my right eye is decent, but in comparison to anyone else, it's pretty crappy. But I do well. Like I know what you look like. I can see the color of the screen, everything. But again, like in order to see, like I can see what color shirt you're on, but in order to see like your face, I have to zoom in a little bit on my Mac. Yeah. So there was just a lot of just damage, and the reality is like, and this is just physical damage because we're gonna get to the mental stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes with it.
And if I don't, because I don't know your format, so I don't know if you're going to throw questions in or should I keep going?
Oh yeah, we're going to question here. Like, let's go back to what's the name of your condition again?
Stevens-Johnson syndrome, or SJS.
Okay, and how old were you when all this started?
4.
4 years old, and allergic to amoxicillin
and vancomycin, both of them.
Okay. Yeah, I've had amoxicillin because I'm a spinal cord injury and get used it for UTIs before. Right. So fortunately, I'm not allergic to it. So all right. So after they find out you're allergic to those 2 medicines, I guess they really take precautions on everything else they were giving you at that time to be sure you're not allergic to other things.
Right. Well, if you move it to modern day time, some people get mad at me because I won't get vaccinated. And it's not because I'm anti-vax. It's one of them has penicillin in it, which is another cillin, and the main cillin, which was, I believe, Pfizer. And I'm allergic to a lot of medications. So I know what I can take and I don't know what I can't take, but I know a lot of what I can take. And I avoid a lot of medications. I avoid a lot of shots and things just because they put all kind of stuff in it. You just don't know everything that's in it. And so that even affects me to this day as far as, people being frustrated with that, but I don't really care at this point.
Yeah. I'm not on to, I did get the vaccinations, but my main thing is because my mother's 80 something years old and just went through all that health issue. And I figured to help protect her at her age, because that was the age it was really getting destroyed with it. And so to help her, help me, to ease of mind, my brother, we got it because of her. Now, if she wasn't around, I don't know if I would have got it. So just for me, the thing is, there's not been enough research to know what's going on because everything happens so fast.
Right.
But I'm not here to judge anybody if they get it or don't get it. What does get me a little ticked off when I get going is how the government and everybody's to all these nurses and doctors, all your heroes, thank you for doing da. Then when the nurses go or doctors go, well, I'm not taking the shot because of the research or whatever. Maybe they're allergic to something's in it, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're a traitor. We need to fire you. Wait a minute, we were heroes when we went through it, or not me, but they were. So but I'm not here to judge you. To teach your own, everybody.
That's an image right there.
Okay, yeah, and that's an image. Yeah, my brother, he actually had 50% of his body burnt, and he was at Boston Shriners Burn Centers back in the 80s. Right. And so we know about all this wrapping like a mummy back then with him. Yeah. So All right.
So you're treated like a burn victim, even though in my case I wasn't. So But I'm sorry. What's your next question?
Oh no. So I was getting into so at 4 years old, man, this is a lot going on for a 4-year-old, and so there's a lot of things I'm sure you didn't understand, and even when they try to explain to you, you may not have been able to understand it.
Right. But the irony is, like, when we're talking about demons and mental health and all that, I am way worse than I was now than I am then. Now I'm in a much better place than I was in my early 20s, late teens. But I was such a happy kid. And the irony is I can't drive, but the one thing I love was cars. Not just like Hot Wheels, but I knew pretty much every model of every car based on the emblems or the body shape. Like, I was a really smart but innocent, loving kid. And life just kind of kicked you in the teeth, and you're just like, wow, like this is a whole reset. But even the only time I really cried, obviously there was some crying with the bandages and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But the only time I really, really cried was when they would take me to surgery. My mom they would have to leave her at the end of the hallway type of stuff, because she was all I had at that time. As far as visiting me in the hospital and stuff. My grandma would come sometimes, and certain people would come. But yeah, I was in really bad shape, but I was still like really, I was laughing and playing with my toys. And I remember there was a kid in my room who ended up dying, but we became good friends, and we were both in really bad shape. And I was still laughing, have a good time. And I something I did that I now like realize as a person, like how strong I am to this day, is I always had it in me, because some certain qualities in this life you cannot buy, or you can't just like obtain out of nowhere. And some stuff is just deep inside there. And like I built this like force field around me of being able to block out the pain, being able to block out the sadness of everything I was going through my music, the toys, my stuffed animals. And I built this like imaginary world that I just was happy in. And then every so often a nurse would come in, change my bandages, or poke me with this, poke me with that. It would hurt, but then I would just go back to my imaginary world, and it would just keep me afloat. And so that's kind of how I dealt with it then. Obviously, the difference is then I didn't know much. I'm still new. I'm still new to life.
Yeah.
So I don't understand this stuff. So kind of the beginning of like, that's the beginning of my story, but the beginning of like where like real damage and abuse started happening is like when I started to go to school, where I was being bullied by students and spit on. I was molested by a nurse in school. And I even had a teacher bully me, where she wouldn't let me go to the bathroom, so she would make me sit in it.
Oh, wow.
So, and as a child, and I've said this so many times, and I always feel like I'm blaming my mom. I'm not, but my mom would say, listen to the adults, because what they say matters. And
that's what we're growing up, is be respectful out there. And so you're trying to be respectful, but then, they're not being respectful back.
Right. And so
that's that. My family taught me the same thing. Don't talk to strangers and be respectful to adults. And of course, at that age, we don't know what a stranger is, because we think of the boogeyman.
Right.
But brought up the same way as you. Be respectful to adults. Yes.
Yeah, and that bit me in the ass. Like every turn, and I was like the worst case scenario for everything. Now I would say like middle school to high school was better, but like the first 4 or 5 years of school was just a nightmare, because I just was going through the worst of times and didn't have any friends, and it's to the point where I wouldn't even go to the bathroom, or I'd go to the bathroom, my mom would have to wipe me, and for up until I was like 14, because I was so damaged. So traumatized, even though I didn't really know it. I just, I'd pee myself in bed, and I would wake up in nightmares screaming, and it was just horrible, like PTSD.
So
and you just
the thing about part of this is physically pain goes away. Mentally, it's there forever. You got to learn to deal with it. So
unless you have some sort of chronic illness.
Well, unless but again, even then it's going to subside with medicine you take and stuff. But that mental is never going away from this, and so you got to learn to, like you said, block it out and have your go to the happy land place, something. But
it's easier when you're younger, because again, you're still new to the world.
When we get older, we think we know it all and we can do everything without people's help. And like I mentioned earlier, I attempted suicide because I brought up that men didn't talk to psychiatrists. You talk to psychiatrists, you're crazy. And so now I would tell anybody, talking to psychologist, psychiatrist, preacher, a mentor, a coach, spiritual, non-spiritual, somebody you trust, spouse, good friend, talking to them openly is much as healthy for you to strengthen your mind as much as working out to strengthen your body physically. And so, to strengthen your mind, I would encourage anybody to get out there and openly talk to get this off their chest.
Yeah, that's why I tell people, like, try not to be a dick in this world, because there are a lot of people hanging on by a thread, and they're just looking for one good or bad interaction, and that's going to determine whether they want to be here anymore. And it may sound like a lot of pressure, but that's really what it's down to. There's a lot of people that are really depressed, and they just want someone to give them like a nice high, like, hey, how you doing? It's like, oh, someone's nice.
Exactly. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, I would just want to be recognized. You don't have to spend 80 minutes with me talking about how the day's going. Just recognize me as a person. Hey, how you doing today? And then move on. I mean, how many people get ignored? Not even that, to be recognized as a person. AQ, hey, Angry Quiet, thank you for coming in. Buddy, I owe you a big apology for not keeping up with you here lately. So I'm going to give you a call this weekend, buddy. Tell the missus I said hello and thank you for coming in.
Yeah, a text or a call saying, "Hey, man, I was thinking of you," even if that's not exactly what it says, but it implies that you were thinking of them, can mean the world. And I know that for me specifically, because there's a lot of times when I've been in my worst of states and no one texts you, and it feels horrible because you just feel so alone. Worst part of it.
Yeah, you're grabbing the world by the tail by yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's tough. But
Yeah,
as long as you have someone you know is with you, that again, if and all they have to do in most places is just listen. Let me get it off my chest. I'm not asking for your advice, and you know what I'm saying. And
yeah.
so, yeah, I just want to get it off my chest is all it is. And if they give some advice and want to help out, that's more power to both of us. But a lot of it just I just want to talk. That's it.
Yeah, I've talked to people off the ledge, and just because they're, depressed and or they're just in really bad places, and I'm just like, look, if you want to yell at me, just pre-warn me. Let me know that you're not like you're doing this. But if you want to yell at me, you want to say horrible things. If this just makes you feel better, just do it. But just pre-warn me because I don't want to have to fight back. I
That's
want
right.
to,
That's right.
yeah, because everybody just needs somebody, and it doesn't have to be a lover, it doesn't have to be a parent. It just anybody. It could be one person out there
Exactly.
that just tries to understand and opens their ear, and it makes a huge difference.
Exactly. Exactly. And so how have you dealt with some of this mentally then?
Well, so again, I went through high school. I got through middle school and stuff. A lot of what helped me through that is I started to kind of dress better. Like, I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't showering. I wasn't wearing up the styles and all that. So I started wearing nicer shoes. So that was kind of, I wasn't say I was popular, but everyone kind of liked me. And
Yeah.
I was still really shy and awkward, but I had friends and it didn't matter. Like everybody, I had friends that were just different ethnicities, different. We all just got along, and it helped. When I got to high school is when I really learned about anxiety, and I started to become more vulnerable because you're a little more on your own, and
Hmm.
you have more responsibilities, and it's kind of it's like pre-warning you for college and just for the world, and you're learning and learning. And I was doing well. My grades were really good, but I started off so slow. I was failing because I everything. Another thing I left out was I had a lot of teachers say, because I was visually impaired, there's a school in Philadelphia where I lived where a lot of students go, and it's kind of where a lot of visually impaired and blind students go to kind of just where they just go to die essentially. And again, I
Okay.
hate to say that, but it's like where we go where we don't really have anything to look forward to. It's like, okay, go to here and then just go to some half-ass college. You don't really get anything from it. You get really basic work and you kind of get babied, and you don't get the real side of what life is like. And I ended up going to a really good high school because I had a teacher who looked out for me and got me into it. And I fought every way because I said, I'm a failure. I'm blind. What am I, we're legally blind. I'm never going to get in this school. Like, why bother? And she and my mom got together, tag team me, and made me go there. And I ended up learning a lot about myself. I became a straight A student and fought through it. But I really did have a lot of anxiety and just
Hmm.
worry. But at the time, it was mainly about being good at getting all my credits and being on honor roll. So it was kind of good anxiety, but it was still anxiety that kind of got to me and stress. And but it was there. It was kind of when I left high school, went into college, and I just started to realize like my cage, like I felt like I was just in a cage, and my cage just got a little bigger from my mobility training and from just going to college, but I wasn't really going anywhere. I was in my house a lot. I was just so depressed and so alone, and I didn't really have any. My one friend, she ended up dying, and so I didn't really have anybody. I wasn't
Hmm.
dating. I was just lonely, and I talk about being in this headspace of I see a woman who's very attractive, and or anybody who's happy, and if I see a pretty woman, I'm like, I want to rape her. Now, I never would have done it. It's just thoughts that would cross my mind because I was in
Yeah.
such a dark place. I hated myself so much. I hated life so much that anybody who had something that I wanted, a couple in love, I wanted them to get by a car or something crazy. And I was
Yeah.
thinking these just horrible things. And I eventually tried to kill myself by shooting myself, but the gun had a lock on it. So obviously a jam that I couldn't. So again, I was a madman. I was going through, like, if I were to sleep with a woman, it didn't matter if I had 8 condoms on. I panicked about having an STD where I was calling hotlines and just the most ridiculous, even though I had no symptoms, even though one of the things that I think a lot of people don't talk about with mental health that bugs me is that mental health can manifest things that aren't there. So
Oh yeah.
it could give you symptoms of stuff So like, let's say I was worried about herpes. So I wouldn't get the actual herpes sores, but I would get the flu-like symptoms. I would get worn out. I would get like the aches. There's a lot of things that come with these STDs and everything that you're worried about. Your body starts to, process and give you these like signals of, oh, hey, you got this. And it's like, but I don't see any blisters, but it's like, but what about that itch right there? What about this? And everything just like, I always say it's like whack-a-mole. So like every time you go to like bop one of the feelings down or one of the emotions that hits you and it kind of subsides and you kind of breathe, another one pops up. So you go to hit that and another one comes up over here. And it's just ridiculous. It's sporadic. It's everywhere. And you don't have a lot of time to like process this. And when you do kind of have a reprieval and you can breathe a little, you may have 5 minutes at best. And then something else just, your heart just starts beating. And that's the anxiety part.
So did you seek professional help with this?
Yeah, I went to therapy and I started to find myself. That's where I started to kind of be a little more outgoing. And, I started trying little methods of going up to people and just saying, hey, how are you doing? That's all I did. Just like, I'm going to go up to 10 people today, walk around in a certain, block radius, like a 10 block radius, and just walk up to random people. And, I was still sheepish about it. I'm still awkward to this day.
Yeah.
But yeah, psychiatrist eventually, like once I think my final straw was beyond the suicide attempt, beyond a lot of just being so just demonstrative and just being so dark. I knew I was so far from myself. I remember going into my bedroom when we were putting a new bedroom set, and I just started like shaking and panicking because they were changing the bedroom set, and I felt like because we had hardwood floors, and the floor would shake. And whatever, because you're putting heavy stuff in, and I just felt like the floor was going to cave in. And at that point, I knew I was ridiculous because we just took all this heavy stuff out, and we're probably putting stuff either equally as heavy, maybe a little lighter, maybe a little heavier, but everything's going to be fine. But I was freaking out so bad.
Yeah.
I think what set me into a tailspin, we had bed bugs at one point, and I kind of went into this like numb place because I told you at one point I was really dirty, didn't take care of myself, but then I was really particular about being super clean. And then that happened and I went numb for like a couple months. And once they were finally gone, I was still kind of feeling them, even though they were gone. But it like took my anxiety and it just made me like really just sad. And, but yes, eventually I got some medication. One of the things that I think I would say is like, I started taking, they gave me Klonopin. And again, everyone, you take whatever your doctor tells you or whatever you're comfortable with. But Klonopin for me, or Ativan, they're kind of very similar. But Klonopin for me, it made my anxiety way worse because the high part of anxiety, and I've never done drugs in my life. I don't drink. I have never smoked a cigarette. But the high of this medication it's not a feeling where you go, oh my God, I want to chase that. It's you wake up in the morning, your heart is beating out of your chest way worse than it was the day before you took this medication. And so you have to take another pill or you might have a heart attack. Because I ended up in the hospital many times. I was just shaking uncontrollably. And and if I didn't take this pill, I was in deep crap. So and so the high part of it is just you're constantly taking one just to calm down the the anxiety. So eventually,
and what you said a second ago, definitely anybody listening, follow your doctor's prescription, follow what they think's best. It's okay to question them. Okay. Because you're talking about the Ativan you felt was gave you more anxiety or whatnot. Yeah. And so my mom, when she was in the hospital here a couple of weeks ago, they gave her Ativan and she was butt crazy for 3 days. We lost her. She's hallucinating everywhere. And so, and I question all this. So you can start to question your own doctor, follow their direction. Again, it's okay. It's okay. Remember, people, get second opinions if you need to. So don't follow our advice on what he's taking, I'm taking, whoever, do it with your doctor is going from there.
Yeah, and just do a lot of research. There's a lot of other stuff out there.
A lot of research, yes.
CBD oil. There's a lot of stuff that people take that, there's people that just smoke weed and it makes them feel better. Whatever makes you feel better, as long as you're not hurting other people or animals, like do it. But also, try to do the research and take the time to see what you're getting yourself into. Because there's people will say, oh, I do heroin and it makes me feel better. I'm not telling you to do that. Just, have an open mind, see what else is out there. There's a lot of natural stuff that doctors don't prescribe that you can take, but just, pay attention to, like, look at side effects, do a lot of research, because you don't want to end up in worse state because you decided to take a gamble on your life.
Yeah, definitely do the research and see pros and cons with the side effects and with the, the potential for the pill. Definitely check out the side effects. So from there, yeah. So again, there's nothing wrong with questioning your doctor. So get second opinions if you need to. All right, so TJ, so you gotten this help and everything to get you not would you say anxiety, to calm that down some, and
really,
going from there. So after taking some medication and experiencing with some counseling, how did things improve?
I will say the real reason why I took medication, it wasn't for my depression. It was for the anxiety. I was petrified of my anxiety because it was so unrealistic. It was going to kill me. And whether I threw myself into a van or whatever, or I just had a heart attack, I couldn't take it. So I didn't care about the depression. I wasn't thinking about my PTSD. I wasn't thinking about any. Anxiety was so scary to me. So I started taking it, and of course, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to kick in. So those 6 to 8 weeks was very long.
Oh yeah.
And I'm taking about a half a Klonopin now just to kind of let it go down. But the side effects are really strong. You don't want to just quit that cold turkey. Any of these medications. There's some stuff you can, but these type of medications, like I started off with Paxil. Paxil was one of the worst to come off of cold turkey, and I did it once because I thought I was having a reaction, because again, back to my original part of my story, and I was having hives and all these things, but it was allergic reaction to something totally else. It wasn't medication related. Of course, I had sunburn on top of it. It was just a nightmare. So I quit it cold turkey, and you start vomiting, and you're nauseous all the time, and you get like your equilibrium is off, so you're really dizzy. And I don't know why I had to do that motion, but it's so when I finally got some help and the Paxil like really started to kick in, I felt like there was a lock in, like my body just was like locked in. The only thing that I still struggle with to this day is like, it's hard for me to like really show emotion in the sense of sadness, because I still deal with depression because I have realistic depression. I've been through a lot of stuff, and this is just some of the stuff I've told you, but I've been through a lot of stuff. I am legally blind, so my eyes take a while to fluctuate. So I deal with that on a daily basis. There's just loneliness. There's things I still deal with on a daily basis, but they're real things to be depressed about. Doesn't mean it doesn't cripple me like it used to, because now maybe it'll take 24 hours or whatever, 10 hours, but it doesn't take weeks. It doesn't take days. It doesn't take, months to get out of it. I'm much stronger. And I try to surround myself with people, like yourself and others.
A great supporting cast, yes.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but one of the things I hate is when people tell me that they're experts at something, but they never experienced it. And there's a lot of mental health, quote unquote, professionals, not even expert. They always call themselves professionals. And then you ask them what their history is. They don't have a suicide attempt. They don't have a whole lot of history of like sadness other than like a parent dying or something. And I'm not saying that they're not necessary, but when I take advice from people, I want to know somebody who's struggled, somebody who's been through it and he's been kicked around over and over and over. And I always kind of go back to that like 6th Rocky movie where he's, dealing with his son because his son is kind of embarrassed to have the same last name. And, they only recognize him as, Rocky's son. But he says, like, look, no one's going to kick you down harder than life. And if you allow it to, it's going to beat you to your knees and you're never going to get up. But it's your choice to continue to get up. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But if you have to keep getting up. Otherwise, again, I also look at it as like the quicksand theory. Like if your goal is to take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, you're always going to have setbacks. You're always going to have days of sadness when you go through the stuff that you and I have gone through and many others. You're going to have setbacks, but your setbacks can't take you 2 steps backward and then 1 step forward, because now you're going in the opposite direction. And at some point, maybe you take 3 steps forward and 1 step backward, and it keeps progressing. But you keep evolving and you keep turning into a better person, and you keep being able to cope and deal with life, and you become stronger. Your skin, thicker skin to the world, and you learn how to just cope. But if you don't learn from any of your mistakes, you don't learn from what life has done to you. Yeah, you're just going to continue to go backwards. And like, that's one of the things I've tried to do, erase a lot of people in my life that are super negative and are like, woe is me, like life. And again, I'm not saying I've never been in those stages, but these are people that shouldn't be in these stages for this period of time. this
Mhm.
long period of time, because I don't, it drags me down and it makes me sad because I care about people. I have empathy, but I don't want to feel like that anymore. I really want to be happy. I want to try to put good energy into the world. And I'm not perfect by any means, but
Yeah.
uh, you know,
And
it's
like you said, we're still going to struggle throughout life, but
yeah.
hopefully we're having better, longer times and days than we do the unhealthy days. But
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully, and so
Yeah.
and I'm like you, perfectly exactly what you were saying is learn from what you're going through and try your best to avoid getting back in there. So
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
supporting cast. I believe everybody's in our life for whatever reason, whatever point or not, and I told someone before, I actually think people that are not good in my life when I kick them out eventually, and because I learned from them what I don't want, and so everybody comes in, good or bad, they're there for you to learn something, okay,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
from there, so yeah, so well, it's awesome that that you've been able to grow, mature, get this seeking this help and everything, because how many people out there are probably not seeking help and not trying to get better, they want to sit and go, oh, poor pitiful me, but they're not
Mm,
doing anything to try to make it better. And so part of it is they don't know how, they don't know what to go look for.
right. Well,
Other part is they're just not going after it.
right. And I'm not even trying to promote it, but one of the real reasons why I started my podcast was because um again, my mental health stopped me from doing it for so long. And if anyone knows the director, Kevin Smith, he had this whole speech where he's talking about, and I forget what the second thing was, but he said there's three things in life we need. And I forget the second one, but the first one was to be loved. And the third one was to be heard. And I always felt like the kid that was, again, I got bullied a lot. So I felt like the kid that was never picked for basketball, ever picked for anything, even though I end up
Hmm.
being decent at basketball. Um, and so I just wanted to give a voice to people who don't have it. And again, I started off just specifically trying to talk about my visual impairment and mental health. And somewhere along the way, I realized one of the things that people in the disability community do is we don't kind of venture off to help each other in other disabilities. We stick to what our body part is or whatever's ailing us, and we don't support each other enough. And that really depressed me because I care so much about us as a whole and not just me and my eyes or other people, because I have a lot of friends that have eye problems. But I realized like there's a bigger hole here. And I saw that documentary Crip Camp, and I
Hmm.
got a lit a fire under me when I saw what all these people did for us and sacrificed their own health to give us certain benefits, so we weren't put in camps, so we weren't killed, and we were able to go to
Yeah.
public schools, and we were able to work, even though that's still a problem to this day for a lot of people with disabilities. Um, but it's like I feel like I just wanted to have the conversation, and then somewhere along the way, my cousin has a son with autism, and I don't know anything about autism other than like the basic stuff, so I just wanted to learn. And
Yeah.
from there, I don't know, I've interviewed probably about 100 people with different conditions and disabilities, but even from that, I started becoming passionate about people who are homeless and people who going through addiction issues. And again, I said I've never done drugs,
Yeah.
but these things are so parallel: domestic violence and child abuse. And again, I went through that, but there's a lot of these things are all connected. These are the real issues that affect our society on a daily basis, and yet we're stuck in this like the same time frame where we don't really they tell us
We're
what we need to react to. They tell us what we need to be angry, what we need to be sad about. But the reality is it's not the major things. Who cares about, like we're talking about abortion these days. The only reason why we're talking about it is because voting time. It's not because people really care that much. I mean, there are people that are super passionate about it, but overall, it's a lot of people that don't need to be talking about it. It's guys and people that are using based on religion and politics. And it's not about whether women should have a choice or not. I'm not even giving you my opinion. It's just we're so worried about that and Ukraine and all these things, and they're fine. They're issues, but they're used to distract us from the real issues. And again, the epidemic, the opioid and heroin epidemic is super high. Suicide is immensely higher.
Oh
Domestic and
yeah.
child abuse has gotten higher since because of COVID, and abuse on people with disabilities. And a lot of this stuff is so high, and I'm very passionate about it because, no one seems to care. And that's, more of us have to speak up like what you're doing and what I do. And so I wasn't even trying to plug the show. I'm just simply
No,
saying
go
like
ahead. I was going to ask you what the name of your radio show is so people can go listen. And but also I want to bring up 2 points here that um, Crip Count, another person I had on my show brought me to the attention of that show. She sent me a link to it so I can
It's
go
beautiful.
watch it. Yes, it is. And so from there, and also, you're right with the disability community. I don't know a lot about other parts of disability. I mean, no, there's a bunch of them out there disabled, a bunch
Yeah.
of different disorders. But I hang around more with the people that are wheelchairs, spinal cord injuries, like that. And so, and what you're saying is we don't support each other enough. You're right about that being disabled. You would think we would, but I've come to learn that, like most of society, even people with disabilities, we have our bullies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even though they're disabled, just like I am, but they have the mentality of still being a bully. From
I-
there, yeah. So
I'm sure
it's
you've
out there.
seen,
It's out there. No matter what condition you're in and where
oh
you're
yeah.
at, bullies are there. So
There's people like me who have some sight who will make fun of blind people. Like it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. There's people who have spina bifida who will make fun of people because they have braces, but they could walk a little better. Like they're more fortunate.
mhm.
And that's what they do. We end up just turning on each other because we're so frustrated with what is what's out there for us, what's available for us, that the lack thereof, education and just the 25 only 25% of us work. Like there's a real
Yeah.
problem. There's
Oh
many
yeah.
problems, but we end up taking out on each other, and we're sitting around waiting for the great, able body help that's never coming. I mean, there's some people that are really doing great work and trying to help for sure, but we're constantly waiting, and it's like it's not going to happen, man. And I'm sure you'll agree. Like the strongest people that I know in this world are people with disabilities. I've never seen people who get kicked around more, and they just keep pulling themselves up, and they just keep coming. And it's just like that's what keeps me going. Like I only brought it up, and I know you were going to allow me to
See,
promote it.
that would be you, man. You get kicked down most of your life like you have been, and look where you're at today and going strong and helping out the next person. And
Yeah,
I'm also into believing that these single mothers that raising their children
that's it.
are the
Yeah,
strongest women around. Okay,
yeah,
my mom,
sure.
she brought up three sons, and we can all say she did a pretty good job. Maybe not the best in the world, but she did pretty good for single mama.
Yeah,
So we're proud
yeah,
of her. So
yeah.
all right, man. Hey, TJ, man, this has been good. You've been giving us a lot of information and stuff. But hey, go ahead and plug it podcast and any other social media for people how they can get hold of you.
Yeah, so the podcast is called My Blurred Opinion. I think that's something that people with disabilities, we're very dark in our sense of humor. So I'm kind of making fun of the fact that my vision is blurry, but it works. And yeah, so you can catch it on an Apple, Spotify, Google, pretty much anywhere you can get podcast. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Timothy J. West. And if you want to if it's really hard to find me, maybe that's a popular name, just type in Williamsport. That's the city I live in, Pennsylvania. And Instagram is where I kind of do a lot of extra stuff like lives and stuff, and it's TJ's Safe Space for All. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Good deal. I'll get those links and put it in the bottom of the show notes to make it easier for people to find it for them. So,
Yeah,
all right, TJ, here we go. I want you to fire somebody up because we know there's people hurting and struggling today. So if you can come up with a big, powerful message that they can hang on today to help them get through, that's gonna be a blessing, man.
yeah. One of the thing that I really want to state just the most is that you really are not alone. I know that sounds corny, and a lot of people say that, but really you're not. And again, one of the things I learned by doing this podcast is I've covered so many rare conditions that I've never heard of in my life, and someone else heard it, and it's like, wow, there's someone else out there. There's nothing better than when you hear someone message you don't know, and they say, "Hey, man, you helped get me through the day," and I don't even know who they are. I have know nothing about them. Someone helped me build a website because they liked an episode I did on spina bifida. I don't know who they are, but they won't take credit, but they just wanted to be nice and help. And so they say put good energy in this world and that'll come back to you. And I really do think that's true. I didn't think that's true for a long time because I hated myself and I hated anything about me or anything that I was. But I promise you, like, try to do your part to put some good in this world because there's too much bad. There's enough of it that's polluting this world. And we don't have enough people trying to do what they need to do to help. But again, the point of this is, and I'll make it short, just you're not alone. I promise you, there's someone out there going through something similar to you. And that's why I'm really big on when I have people on to share their story, share it in its entirety and don't leave out any steps, because there's someone out there that is going through the same exact thing. And if you skip one step, like, hey, I talk to myself, or I hate myself, and if you leave that one part out, that person may just that might be their last hope, because they heard your whole story and you just left that part out, and they're like, wow, I'm alone. And feeling alone is terrible. It's petrifying, but I promise you're not. And there's no reason not to search people out now, because it's very easy to just type in a Facebook group and just type in any random thing, or Google it, or YouTube it, and there's someone out there going through very similar things. And yeah, just find something to hold on to. I'll finish it with this: just find something to hold on to. I don't care if it's the next season of a show. I don't care if it's an album from an artist that's coming out in 3 months. That's 3 months you want to live. Maybe in 3 months, you'll find something else to live for. Just find little things. It doesn't have to be the end all be all. If it's a pet, my cat got me through everything. So I understand. So yeah, just hold on, find something to live for. And like I said, you're not alone.
There we go. Awesome, man. And so, yeah, and I'm big firm believer that if we all do our one good deed for the day, the world will be a different place. So,
Yeah.
And some of us can afford to do 2 good deeds. So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things out there we can do that don't cost us a penny. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, like you mentioned earlier, just recognizing someone, asking how their day's going, could be the biggest thing in the world that happened to them, and no telling when. So,
Hold the door for somebody.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't, the little stuff like that doesn't cost you anything, but it could be huge to them at whatever they're going through at that time. All right, TJ, hey, thank you for coming in, buddy. Thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for giving us some encouragement on what's out there to have a better life. Okay.
Yeah,
Everyone
sure.
else, hey, be sure to share this out with someone you know that's hurting and struggling, and it could use this. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. I'm Dr. James Perdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, angry, quiet. Thank you for coming in. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your